My birthday is in 1 month. And my laptop just died. It's okay. And I'm so excited. I love my birthday. I think my birthday is a national holiday. It should be a national holiday. But I have always struggled with birthdays. I am definitely one of those try not to cry on your birthday kind of girls. Because I don't know, I think when I was growing up, I always saw my birthdays as I would compare myself a lot to how I thought the age prior should have went. Not even. I would always look back and I would see how that year went, like the things that I experienced that previous year. And it would make me kind of sad because I would have all of these expectations for myself that I never really fulfilled because I thought that my teen years would be me going crazy and having all of these cool experiences that only rich people have. And when that didn't come true because of these super high expectations, I'd be sad. And I thought that, oh, I missed out on another year of the teenage experience. When in reality, that's just not true. That was just me putting some really high expectations when there didn't need to be one. So I thought, why not today reflect on the past year and talk about some things that I've learned? Because even if some of my teenage years have been disappointing because of these super high expectations, I still learned a lot from them. And I didn't realize how much I learned until I'm older now and I can look back and be like, okay, so you weren't just wasting your time, you were actually growing and developing as a human being, as a person. So yeah, let's do that. Let's do that today. Also, today we're in my room. This is my room, guys, and I'm not wearing any makeup. So if you're a visual viewer, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm being real. I'm being real with y'all because I've been having terrible skin as of lately, and my bangs are really thin right now because I'm trying to grow them out with my hair. But it's fine. It's okay. It's also gonna be nighttime. It's almost sunset. I just missed golden hour, so I was lazy and I didn't want to set up, but it's fine. So if my bangs look messed up, just don't say anything about it. Don't say anything. Ignore it. But yeah, let's dive into some things that I learned this past year as an 18-year-old. So, the first thing that I learned, well, it wasn't the first thing, it's kind of the latest thing that I learned. And this was that people just come and go out of your life, and it's always, not always, but it's not necessarily always gonna be your fault. And just because people come in and out of your life, that doesn't mean that it has to be something that defines you as a friend or as a person. It just means that there's a time and place for everything, and there's a time for someone to be in your life, and there's a time for people to exit your life. And I think what I struggle with is I always have, not always, but I usually have this expectation that people that I really care about are gonna be with me forever. And okay, that's like unreasonable. It's unreasonable to put these expectations onto people and to think that they're gonna act the way that you want them to act. And I always thought that because, I show my friendship in this way and I am loyal in this way and I express my love in this way, that other people would feel the same because I was silly and I was immature, I think, emotionally a little bit. So I thought that people would just automatically think the same way as me, and people that I love and that I think I know to a very deep degree would think the same way that I do. And that's not always the case. People change and they grow, and that's a beautiful thing. And sometimes people grow apart. And I would always take this to heart. I would always be, if someone that I was close with, left or we weren't really as close anymore, I would always take that as something that was my fault, that I could change, that either I was wronged or I wronged someone else, but like I never really knew what happened, and I wouldn't necessarily think to ask. I would just always pinpoint it on some sort of disagreement or some sort of whatever. But sometimes people just aren't meant to be in your life for that long, and that's okay. Now, there are instances where communication is always key, and there are people that are meant to stay in your life forever. Sorry, I keep on touching my bangs, and it's just because I hate how they look right now in this light. I just want to shave all of this off. Give me 1 second. Okay, that's a bit better. I fixed my headband. But yeah, I think my issue was that I would put expectations for certain people, and I would put expectations on their personality. And then when they kind of shifted from that expectation, not necessarily expectation, but my perception of them, when they didn't fit my perception of them, I feel like everything that I thought about them would change. I'd be like, oh, you're lying to me. You didn't show me this part of you before, and now you are. So now I don't know who you are. And that's not really true. People are complex, and people have things about them that they don't share and that they're not vulnerable about. And if you are lucky enough that they show you certain parts of you that they usually hide, then I think that's something that you should embrace. And if it's something that is like, that makes you not want to be friends with them anymore, that's okay. I'm being very vague here because I also don't want to influence people to like cut off all their friends and like whatever, but this is just my experiences, you know. It's not good to have a set perception of someone, because then like when they break that perception, then it's kind of like you don't really know what to do with yourself, or at least that's how I felt. But people are complicated. I'm a complicated person. I have things that I don't usually share with people. That sometimes that's the case of why friends leave and why things ebb and flow. And sometimes it can just be that people grow apart. But throughout my life, I've had a lot of people come and go. A lot of people that I thought were that were really close to me and that I thought would be there long term. And what I noticed is with these types of people that I would get really attached to, but then would leave due to either an issue or just circumstance, is I would get really affected by it, and it would affect me personally. It would affect the way that I thought about myself and my self-confidence and my self-worth, because I would put my self-worth in the connections that I had with people. And that's not healthy. We got to put our self-worth in ourselves. You know, it's not something that we should take from others. It's something that we should have regardless if we have a million friends or one friend or no friends. You know, another thing that I learned is also to be comfortable with myself. That goes with putting your self-worth in others. It's not good to do. You have to be comfortable being by yourself and sitting with yourself. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, with just sitting and being like knowing who you are on the inside. And a lot of people use having a lot of friendships and a lot of things like that as a way to kind of escape being and sitting with yourself. So I think it's always good to be introspective and to try to know yourself through and through. And it's difficult. This is something that's so hard for teenagers, especially for me. I'm just speaking from my personal experience, but for me, I found it so hard because a lot of the time now, or the conversations, a lot of them that I had when I was like in high school or growing up with my family was about identity. And we talked a lot about identity. I'm like, okay, what do you mean by that? Like, we are who we are automatically. But I found that subconsciously I was putting a lot of my identity in how other people perceived me, and I was putting a lot of weight into that as well, into my self-worth. So I tried really hard to express myself in a way that I want others to perceive me as. Sometimes I hit the mark and sometimes I didn't, and people just thought I was a weirdo, but that's okay. It's just the way that the teenage brain works. But when you pull away more from your relationship with your parents and build your relationship with your peers, it's really easy to get caught up in that and to not put your self-worth in yourself. If y'all understand what I mean, I don't know. I could just be babbling, but if you guys can find a little nugget of gold in the words that I'm vomiting, then take it. Take what is applicable. But yeah. So I learned, I think, this year to be comfortable with myself, to be okay with being alone. And yeah, I still have a lot of friends, a lot of long-term friends that I hope and pray will be in my life until I'm old and wrinkly. But I've also had like quite a few friends leave, and it's painful and it hurts. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to change any part of myself because of it. I'm not going to think that I'm a bad friend or think that there's something inherently wrong with me because of some experiences that I have with others. You know, it's not always black and white, and it's not always one person's fault. So I think that learning to be okay with that is something that you learn as you get older. Because when I was younger, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the end of the world. What am I gonna do without these people? And then now I'm like, okay, I can survive this. I can survive people coming in and out of my life. I can survive things that I consider to be betrayal. I can survive, being treated certain ways that doesn't feel very great. And yeah, and you learn to communicate. You learn to, the people that are important and the people that are worth fighting for will also fight for you, will also be people that want you to be in their life, and if there's that mutual connection and there's that mutual understanding of, okay, we want to be there for each other, then that will happen. And if it doesn't, then that's not a relationship that will better you. It's not a relationship that will bring your life joy. And it's okay to let that go, even if it's hurtful. But yeah. Oh, okay. This is a big one. Intuition. Following intuition. I think of myself as someone who is pretty intuitive. Ever since I was little, I've always had okay, y'all can believe me or y'all cannot. It's okay. But I'm saying that I've always been really in tune with my dreams, and I've talked about this relentlessly on this pod, but I've always had dreams that would kind of manifest themselves into real life. And I've always been able to kind of find meaning in them. And I think I have a really powerful intuition that a lot of the times I ignore because I don't want them to be for real. But I think that I'm learning to trust my intuition more and also act on my intuition, because I can know that something's wrong and still not act the way that I know is right. So yeah, I am able to recognize patterns of behavior really well in people, because I've just had so many experiences with others. I've moved around a lot, so I've had a lot of friends and I've had a lot of different types of relationships with people, and I can pretty easily clock different types of people and how people will react to certain situations, and I can recognize where things will go if it comes to an argument or if it comes to I don't know, a scenario. For example, if someone's acting a little funny, I can usually tell why, even if it's not said directly. Okay, and then I could also just, y'all could just be okay, everyone does that. Yeah, I know, it's called, reading people. Yeah, everyone does that. But I'm able to predict how people will act and the things that people say and the things that people do, months in advance based off of a tiny interaction or, a little thing that they say or some sort of, I don't know, exchange or argument, I can tell if something is going to become a problem in the future or if it's just like a little minor thing. And I have proof, okay? I write in my diary. I journal things and I'm like, okay, I caught this weird vibe from so and so. And I think that it will either turn out this way, and this is like my intuition part, or this way. And I usually write what I hope will happen. And 99% of the time, it's what my intuition says will happen. And it's completely random things. Like, it's not things that you would guess would happen if you didn't, first of all, know the person and recognize patterns of behavior in other people. So, yeah. But I don't act accordingly. So I just let it play out. And then I end up either hurting myself or putting myself in situations that I couldn't be in or shouldn't be in, because I know that if I acted before, it would be like too premature, or it'd be an overreaction, and then I just end up hurting myself more. So I think that I've learned to follow my intuition and to not surround myself with people that act certain ways that I know will become a problem in the future. But I also have to balance it in like, I don't want to treat everyone the same, because everyone is unique and people can act differently than what I think. Because like, it's the same thing that I talked about. Like, I have certain expectations for people, and when they break them, I'm surprised. And that usually comes from me being intuitive and kind of knowing how people will act. But so I need to make sure that I balance being intuitive and like following my intuition, but also recognizing that everyone is a unique individual and every situation will pan out uniquely. But I think I'm getting pretty good at finding that balance and using my intuition to save me from situations that are hurtful and that could lead to being a part of experiences that I don't want to be a part in. But yeah, I think that everyone has an innate sense of intuition, but people just, they ignore them because it's easier. Because it's hard to clock something in the beginning when things can be seen as an overreaction. I think it's necessary. I think people should stop beating around the bush. People need to stop waiting for things to become overwhelming to put an end to something that you know is going to be bad. You know, like if you know something's going to be bad, if you know that someone is acting a certain way that will hurt you in the future, or is acting in a way that you recognize is not good and that will lead to problems, you need to clock that right away. Like, people need to stop being scared of communication. And the way that people react to communication is so important. Like, if people are closed off and if they don't want to solve whatever issue that you feel is there, not even just in words and actions, I think actions are very important, then those aren't people that are worth your time. Those aren't people that you should waste your emotional energy on. And I'm reiterating, that is not to say that you should cut off every single person just because they make a small mistake. And that's not to say that like every single person that does something that makes you uncomfortable is inherently bad. You have to think about long term, is this something that you want to put up with, or is this just a one-off thing? But yeah, I think it's good to recognize intuition, and I think I'm getting better at it based off of my experiences this year. And I hope that I'm able to use my intuition next year to make sure that I don't get into experiences that are hurtful. But yeah, I also learned in the same train of thought, forgiveness and being gracious is such an important thing. Because I think about things a lot. Things are always percolating around my brain. But I think forgiveness is not something that I thought a lot about until this year. Because I used to hold a grudge, and maybe I still do, I just want to say that I don't, but I used to be a person that holds a grudge so hard until I just forget what I was holding a grudge about, but I still know the feelings there, but I don't know why. And that's so unhealthy. It really drags you down, and I don't know, like being a hater is just, it's not worth it. I know that everyone nowadays is just like, oh, like in my hater era, you know, bad mouthing everyone and blah, blah, blah. But it's exhausting. It's exhausting to be a hater, and it's exhausting to be around, I don't want to say like people, but to be around energies of things that just are not being let go. Like, I hate thinking about things. Well, now I do because I've matured, but I hate thinking about things that upset me like 3 years ago or like 2 years ago. Like, I don't know, if it's not something that's affecting me now, and if those people that hurt me or if that situation that hurt me is not something that's affecting me now, I just don't want to think about it. I just don't want it to be something that drags me down or that, I don't know, is impacting my behavior. And forgiveness, I believe forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is, well, it depends. Forgiveness is for the other person in that they don't owe you anything for what they did. But I think also forgiveness in the human sense is recognizing that you were wronged and not necessarily, and not being okay with it, but not letting it drag you down and not letting it be something that is sitting with your soul. And that is so important. It's so important to always have like good energy. Yeah, and I think forgiveness also is earned. It's not something no one is owed forgiveness, I think, if they're wronged. I think forgiveness is something that comes with being genuine, something that comes with growth. Like, if you show your growth, then that's when forgiveness is given. But I would like to think that, you know, the things that I've done in the past, I hope and I pray that people don't hold those things against me. Things that I've done when I was little, like 12 or like even 9, 10, that was not me. Things that I did when I was 14, 15, that is not me. I have grown and learned and become such a more whole person since then. I hope and pray that if I have wronged anyone in a way that is severe and hurtful, that they're able to extend grace to me and know that I am a changed person. In that light, I also would like to extend grace and forgiveness to others if they've wronged me, because I know that people change, and I want to give that benefit of the doubt as much as I can, unless proven otherwise, unless I know that you're the same person and that you will continue to do things that harm others and not be accountable for your actions. I want to give grace to others. It's something that I'm working on and something that hopefully I am better at than I was a year ago, because I was holding on to some grudges back then. But no, not anymore. I think if I see some people, like the people that I can think of in my head that have wronged me, I think that I would be gracious to them. I think that we would be able to have a conversation, like have a cup of coffee or something, and I wouldn't feel that hurt. Oh, standards. I recently listened to the Emma Chamberlain podcast. Y'all should listen to that too, because it's so good. The Emma Chamberlain podcast talking about standards, high and low standards, and how we shouldn't strive for high standards, because high standards kind of means that it's something that is unattainable. We should always be striving for the normal, you know? It's the same thing with attachment styles, like insecure and anxious attachment styles. They're both different, but they're both insecure. They're both called insecure avoidant and insecure anxious. But you're striving for a stable attachment style. You're striving for a secure attachment style. And I think it's the same way for standards. You're not striving for high standards. You're not striving for low standards. You're striving for a secure set of standards that is able to be met, but also satisfies what you need in a relationship. And I think that my standards are pretty secure. I haven't dated a lot of people, but I used to say that I had really high standards for myself, just because I am not one to put up with silliness. I'm not one to put up with, like, I don't know, people not putting in enough effort. I think that's my biggest thing is effort, is people putting in the same effort that I put into. But then I realized that that's not realistic. Something that I consider to be low effort might be too much for someone else, and something that I consider to be high effort might be too low for someone else. So it's just like the compatibility of the relationship that matters, and seeing if your standards are the same, I think is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I think that the whole thing is that you should meet someone with the same set of standards as you. And I'm trying to be the person that meets that for my standards. If you know what I mean. Like, be the person that you want your future partner's type to be. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's getting really dark here too, so I think it's almost time to wrap it up. And I think the last point that I'm going to talk about with the things that I've learned through being 18, with my maturity, because I'm so mature now, guys. I'm literally an adult. Is being okay with life being boring. That's a tough one for me to swallow, okay? Because I have my thing of thinking that I'm going to be like Bella Hadid in the future. Like, I think that but I want to have a great life. Like, you know the Timothy Chalamet speech where he's like, I strive for greatness. That is what I do. I strive for greatness. Except the thing is, I am not Timothy Chalamet. I am a random girl from Canada who did not win any Oscars, who is going to university studying a degree. Like, I think that my version of striving for greatness is kind of set in a place of wanting to be successful. But that also like correlates to the expectations thing of setting realistic expectations for yourself. And yeah, I think I am learning to be okay with having a life that is satisfying, not having a life that is considered to be great by other people, but a life that's being considered to be great by me. Being okay with a boring life. Also, by boring, I don't mean boring as in like, oh my goodness, this is so dull. Like, I can't wait. Like, I'm working a job that makes me want to cry every day and I'm yearning for the weekends. Like, that's not what I mean for a boring life. Like, I want a life that I am satisfied by, but I mean boring as in like kind of drama, because that's what I've learned this past year. I really, really dislike having high stress situations in my life that I just don't need. I don't need to be constantly surrounded by a situation, by a drama, by people that don't help me keep my peace. I'm yearning for a satisfying, drama-free life. That is what I need. I can't be surrounding myself with people that don't put me on my goal or keep me on my goal of having that great life that I feel like I'm supposed to lead. But yeah, that's basically, I think all of these things kind of circle together. And they're also pretty you should know this already. And I know that I should know this already. But the thing is with being a teenager and with growing up is that you don't know these things and that you're constantly learning, growing as a person. And maybe someone already recognized that it's okay when friends leave when they were 12. And maybe someone recognized that forgiveness and being gracious is a good and healthy thing at 15 years old. But unfortunately, I did not. And I'm learning that now and I'm maturing that. And also it's something that needs to continue to be worked, something that needs to be exercised. All of these things need to be actively implemented. And that is what I'm trying to do for the 19th year of my life. That's crazy. I can't believe I'm 19 already. This is like the age that I wanted to be when I was 15. Like, I wanted to be 19. And now I'm here. Well, I'm gonna be there in a few days. And it's just crazy. Like, what am I gonna do? Get married? Have babies? That's crazy. If I think about the next 5 years of my life and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I've said this before, but I wanted, now we're just going with the flow. I wanted my life to be like, you know, get engaged at 21 and get married at like 22. Girl, and before I get engaged, I would have to have dated someone for at least 3 years. So I really gotta get on that. So obviously I'm a little bit late on the timeline, but that's okay. It's fine. That's why we go outside. That's why we go outside, guys. That's why we go outside and we talk to people. Oh, but I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. I just need, you know what I need? I need God to just pluck someone, put them right in front of me and be like, this is it. This is the person. But it doesn't work like that. And maybe that's something that I'm going to learn this year. We'll see. We'll come back to this video in a year. We'll reflect the things I've said. I'm probably going to cringe so hard because I do that already. I cringe at myself from videos that I've made a month ago. So I don't know how it will be. But yeah, this is what I've learned. Take what you will from these things, from my experiences. Be better than me, learn earlier than me, learn how to be emotionally smart earlier than me. And yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, y'all, and bearing with me through this visual. I look like a phantom right now. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with me this week. Hopefully I'll see you next week, but who knows, because I'm a busy gal. So yeah, love y'all.